Hello, friends. I'm an 83-year-old woman, and looking back on my life, I've come to realize that experience, while valuable, doesn't always prevent mistakes. There's one decision in particular that casts a long shadow: moving into an assisted living facility. It seemed sensible at the time. My family, bless their hearts, wanted me to be safe and comfortable. They painted a picture of attentive care, engaging activities, and a community of peers. I trusted them. I wanted to believe them. But the reality, it's been different. I know many of you are grappling with similar choices either for yourselves or for someone you love. You might be weighing the pros and cons, feeling pressured, or simply unsure what to do. Before you take that leap, I want to share 7 harsh truths, 7 things I desperately wish someone had told me before I packed my bags and said goodbye to my home. This isn't about scaring you, it's about empowering you with knowledge so you can make the most informed decision possible. Life in an assisted living facility isn't just about convenience. It's a fundamental shift that impacts every aspect of your existence. And let me tell you, getting out isn't nearly as easy as getting in. So please, stay with me until the end. These lessons might be the most important thing you hear today. And if you know someone contemplating this move, please share this video. It could change their life. Let's begin. Regret 1. The erosion of identity. The most profound shock wasn't the bland food, the regimented schedule, or the constant hum of medical equipment. It was the slow, insidious erosion of my identity. Before I moved in, I was me. I was Helen. I had a history, a personality, quirks, and preferences. I was a gardener, a book club member, a terrible but enthusiastic painter. I hosted family dinners. I volunteered at the local library. I had a purpose. But inside those walls, I gradually became a resident, a number, a patient. My past seemed to fade into the background. The things that made me unique, that defined me, were slowly stripped away. I remember one day, I was trying to explain to one of the aides that I preferred Earl Grey tea, not the generic black tea they served. It seemed like a small thing, but it was important to me. She smiled, patted my hand, and said, "Don't worry, dear, it's all the same. It's just tea." That's when it hit me. My preferences, my little rituals, they didn't matter. I was expected to conform, to blend in. The facility had a system, and I was just another cog in the machine. I stopped painting because there wasn't a dedicated space for it, and the staff seemed too busy to help me set up. My book club membership lapsed because the meetings were held at times that conflicted with the facility's activities. I stopped hosting family dinners because the dining room was more convenient, even though the food was never quite right. Slowly, piece by piece, I lost the threads that connected me to my former self. I started to wonder, who was I without my garden, my books, my friends? Who was I when my days were filled with bingo and daytime television? If you're considering an assisted living facility, ask yourself, how much of your identity are you willing to sacrifice? What are the things that make you, you? And how will you protect them from being erased? Regret 2. The isolation of loneliness. My family promised to visit. They meant well. I know they did. But life has a way of getting in the way. At first, the visits were frequent. My daughter came every Sunday, bringing flowers and news from the outside world. My grandchildren video called me every week, showing me their school projects and telling me about their sports games. But as time went on, the visits became less and less frequent. My daughter got busy with work and her own family. The grandchildren's schedules filled up with extracurricular activities. The flowers stopped coming. The video calls became shorter and less frequent. I understood. I really did. But that didn't make the loneliness any easier to bear. The assisted living facility was filled with people, but I felt utterly alone. We sat together in the common room, watching television, but there was no real connection. We ate together in the dining hall, but the conversations were superficial. I longed for deep, meaningful conversations, for shared experiences, for the comfort of familiar faces. I missed my friends, my neighbors, the people who knew me and cared about me. One Christmas, my family couldn't make it. They had a last-minute emergency, they said. I sat alone in my room, staring at the blinking lights on the Christmas tree, feeling a wave of despair wash over me. It wasn't just the loneliness. It was the feeling of being forgotten, of being left behind. Loneliness in an assisted living facility isn't just about being physically alone. It's about feeling disconnected from the world, from your loved ones, from your own life. If you're considering this option, honestly assess your support system. Are they truly committed to regular, meaningful contact? Because casual visits are not a substitute for genuine connection. If you're finding these insights valuable, please comment truth below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support means the world to me. Regret 3. The stifling of creativity and passion. Remember, I mentioned I was a painter? Amateur, to be sure, but it brought me so much joy. Before moving, I spent hours in my small sunroom, lost in color and texture. I wasn't creating masterpieces, but I was expressing myself, connecting with something deeper. In the facility, that part of me withered. There was no dedicated art space. The activities were mostly passive. Bingo, movie nights, sing-alongs, well-meaning but utterly uninspiring. I tried to start a small painting group, but it was met with resistance. The staff were too busy, they said. There weren't enough supplies. It wasn't on the schedule. Slowly, my passion faded. The paints dried up. The canvases gathered dust. I stopped seeing the world in colors. I stopped feeling that spark of creativity. It wasn't just painting. It was gardening, writing, volunteering, all the things that had once given my life meaning and purpose. They were all deemed too difficult, too inconvenient, too disruptive. An assisted living facility can be a place where passions go to die. It can be a place where creativity is stifled and individuality is suppressed. What fuels your soul? What makes you feel alive? Seriously consider if the facility can support and nurture those things. Regret 4. The diminishment of physical abilities. Before I moved in, I was relatively independent. I could walk, cook, clean, and take care of myself. I wasn't as strong as I used to be, but I was functional. The facility promised to make life easier. They would take care of the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. They would provide assistance with bathing and dressing. They would make sure I was safe and comfortable. And they did. But at a cost. The less I did, the less I could do. My muscles weakened. My joints stiffened. My balance deteriorated. I became increasingly dependent on the staff. It was a vicious cycle. The facility provided care, and I accepted it. The more care I accepted, the less capable I became. The less capable I became, the more care I needed. I watched it happen to others as well. People who walked in on their own 2 feet were soon confined to wheelchairs. People who could dress themselves were soon relying on aids. The facility was inadvertently fostering dependency. I remember one woman, a former dancer, who arrived with a twinkle in her eye and a determination to stay active. She tried to organize dance classes, but she was met with apathy and resistance. Slowly, she stopped trying. She spent her days sitting in her chair, watching television, her body stiffening, her spirit dimming. Don't underestimate the power of movement. Even the smallest tasks, every step, every stretch, every effort to maintain your independence is a victory. Because once you lose that physical capability, regaining it is incredibly difficult. Regret 5. The loss of dignity and autonomy. Perhaps the hardest pill to swallow was the constant erosion of my dignity. At home, I had control over my life. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, when to sleep, and what to do with my time. I had privacy. I had autonomy. In the facility, those things were taken away. My life was dictated by a schedule. I had to eat when they told me to eat, sleep when they told me to sleep, and participate in activities whether I wanted to or not. Privacy was a luxury I could no longer afford. Aides came and went at all hours of the day and night, often without knocking. I had to share a room with a stranger, someone whose habits and preferences clashed with my own. And then there was the constant infantilization. I was spoken to in a patronizing tone, treated like a child, stripped of my agency. I was no longer Helen, the intelligent, capable woman I had always been. I was just another resident, a body to be cared for. It wasn't intentional malice, of course. The staff were overworked and underpaid. They were doing the best they could. But the system itself was dehumanizing. I remember one day, I was struggling to put on my shoes. An aide rushed over to help, and before I could say anything, she had wrestled my feet into them, yanking and pulling without any regard for my comfort. "There you go, dear," she said, patting my knee. "All done." I felt a surge of anger and humiliation. I wasn't helpless, I just needed a little time and patience. But she had taken away my opportunity to do it myself, to maintain my dignity. Protect your independence at all costs. Insist on doing things yourself, even if it takes longer. Demand to be treated with respect. Because once you lose your dignity, you lose a part of yourself. Regret 6. The financial burden and the drain on resources assisted living facilities are expensive. Very expensive. I had saved my whole life, planning for retirement. I thought I had enough to live comfortably for the rest of my days. But the cost of the facility quickly depleted my savings. The monthly fees were astronomical, and there were always unexpected expenses. Medications, equipment, specialized care. It all added up. My children had to step in to help, contributing their own savings to keep me afloat. I felt guilty and ashamed. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to drain their resources. The financial strain created tension within the family. There were arguments about money, about what I needed, about who should pay for what. It was heartbreaking to see my children struggling, sacrificing their own dreams to take care of me. And the worst part was, I wasn't even happy. I was living in a place that was slowly killing my spirit, and it was costing my family a fortune. Before you commit to an assisted living facility, carefully assess the financial implications. Explore all your options. There may be more affordable alternatives. Talk to a financial advisor. Protect your assets and your family's future. Regret 7. The illusion of permanence and the difficulty of leaving. When I moved in, I told myself it was temporary. I would give it a try, see how it went. And if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But leaving was much harder than I imagined. First, there was the emotional hurdle. I had already disrupted my life, sold my home, and said goodbye to my friends. The thought of starting all over again was daunting. Then there was the practical challenge. I had become dependent on the facility's care. I wasn't sure I could manage on my own. My children worried about my safety. And finally, there was the financial barrier. My savings were dwindling. Moving back home would require additional expenses. Hiring help would be costly. I felt trapped. I had made a decision that was supposed to make my life easier, but it had instead created a cage. Many residents feel this way. They thought they could try it, see how it goes. But they are trapped because it is very difficult to move out once you are settled. Ask yourself, is this truly a reversible decision? Are you willing to burn bridges to leave? Because leaving is much harder than you think. Looking back, I wish I had explored other options. I wish I had fought harder to stay in my home, to maintain my independence. I wish I had known the harsh realities of assisted living facilities. This isn't to say that assisted living facilities are inherently bad. They can be a valuable resource for those who truly need them. But they are not a panacea. They are not a substitute for a fulfilling life, and they are not always the best option. Before you make this decision, please do your research. Talk to other residents. Ask tough questions. Explore all your alternatives. And most importantly, listen to your heart. Your life is worth fighting for. Your independence is worth preserving. And your happiness is worth pursuing. Thank you for listening. I hope this video has been helpful. Please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts and experiences. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.